Hello, everybody. My name is Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and this is my compadre, Chris Anonymous, and we are here with a great show about space boxing.
Space boxing. Space wrestling? Space mixed martial arts.
Oh, yeah, I think maybe more of that. There's some kicks thrown. Can you throw a kick?
Yeah. So a punch is something with an arm, a kick is something with a leg. What if you have an alien appendage that is neither defined as leg or...
A flumble?
Yeah. Is there a specific verb for striking someone with a flumble or some other alien
I think it is to flumble. You flumble one's face.
Flumbling. Well, there was lots of flumbling in this film.
Flumbling all over. So we are a show where we talk about movies, specifically movies that what we consider are schlocky movies. And schlock can be a large array of many different things. And we will talk about that for this movie, Arena, at the end of the show. How the show usually goes is we give a little bit of an intro. We write down 2 to 3 columns of the things that we think are good, the things that we think are bad about this movie. And then we talk about the schlock. What is schlocky in the movie? And to be completely honest, all cards on the table, we are a pretty schlocky show ourselves. As you can see, we are filming in undisclosed locations, unless you see my bed in the background. We have some gnarly green screen behind us. We have some poor quality audio issues because of streaming. Yeah, I think we hit the mark. I think we're doing a good job.
And I like it that way.
Yeah. So, and also beware, we spoil everything. This movie, you're going to know exactly what happens in this movie and maybe movies that you want to see.
Yeah, we spoil everything. We're spoilers. So stay tuned to the end to see what I pick for next week's schlocky movie of the week, what we're going to watch and then talk about on our next show. And since you're here this far, if you would like, subscribe, make a comment. We'd love to know you're here. We'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, wherever you're watching, whether you're watching us live or you're watching us later on the YouTubes, we really appreciate your feedback. So that's, I don't really have a whole lot of intro specifically for this movie because I couldn't find the information about how much this movie cost to make and how much it made at the box office. And that really sucks because I would really, really like to know what the budget was for this movie. And we'll kind of talk about that some more during the schlock. Yeah. But this movie really kind of fascinates me with how it's put together. And I'd really like to know how well received it was when it came out on the money side. Something that was confusing about it, if you're watching on Tubi, and that's usually where we watch these movies because it's free to watch on Tubi with some ads in between. It says Arena 1991, but if you look this up online, it says 1989. And so I was a little confused about when this movie came out. I was a pipsqueak for sure.
It was shot, I believe, in 88, and then it was shelved and then finally released in 91. So
they just cut the difference and said 89.
Right. Wow. That could have been somewhere else. It was released in 89, like another country.
Or space.
Filmed in Italy or space. Well, it's good you don't have a lot on your intro because the web of schlock is very
vast and large. It's a Charles Band movie.
It's a Charles Band movie. That's what I was going to start with, man. He just keeps coming back on this show again and again and again, for better and for worse. Composer Richard Brand, his brother.
Oh, have we seen him before?
I think we have. You just go to IMDb and look him up, man. He's pretty much like every full moon.
Part of the family.
Lots of horror movies. The director, Peter Manoogian, Dungeon Master, Seed People. He actually had more work as an assistant director than as a director. And he was the second unit manager on The Howling, which I think is probably the most famous work I saw there. Now the writer, that's interesting, Danny Bilson. So Tracers, which is another in the Charles Band family.
That's a culty classic.
The Flash TV show from the 90s.
Oh man, I remember that. I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. Now here are two just kind of off the wall ones. The Rocketeer. Disney's The Rocketeer. Oh, I love The Rocketeer, but like
not enough people talk about The Rocketeer.
Yeah. And then The Five Bloods, which is Spike Lee's Vietnam war movie that he did for Netflix a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of really, lots of other stuff in between, lots of schlocky horror. Editor, he did American Ninja, Silence of the Hams. Did you ever see that? It was a parody of like serial killer, like thrillers.
I may have, but I sure can't remember that. That was, again, I think I was a pipsqueak at the time.
Cinematographer, Mac Ahlberg, Tracers, Ghoulies, Reanimator, House, and then Beverly Hills Cop 3, Brady Bunch movie, just odd stuff. And now the actors, I'm gonna just bullet through them because there's so many. The main guy who looks like Christopher Reeves, lots of TV, Creepshow 2, not a lot else. Now Hamilton Camp, Shorty, just so much TV.
Great character.
Great. Pretty much any cartoon from the 70s, 80s, or 90s, he was in. And also he's the Green Smurf. Like he has like 3 or 4 verses in the Smurf. Like that was the thing that he had most reoccurring. I'm like, all right, but tons of TV. Claudia Christian, Babylon 5. Huge role there. And then Weasel, Armin Shimmerman. He's Quark.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he's Quark.
So Star Trek, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine.
And Voyager, right?
No, I don't think he's in. I mean, he may have made an appearance, but Voyager, like they're like out in far space. So,
gotcha.
And interestingly enough, it looks like that this movie was actually based on an old episode of Star Trek where
it feels that way, and
where they're having an intergalactic fighting.
Right, and not only is he Quark, he's also Principal Snyder in the Buffy TV show. So nice. Two huge things. So just lots of stuff. Got
some nice connections. Someday, maybe in a special YouTube episode or something, I'm going to have to give my rant about the Ferengi the Ferengs in Star Trek, because I think they're much maligned unfairly. But anyway, let's keep going with our show here. Yeah. So the good, the bad, and the schlock. I'm going to start this time actually because my good list is actually really short, but I think for good reason, because the one thing is so big, it just can't be ignored and it can't be overstated enough. The special effects makeup in this, I just adored. I absolutely loved it. And it's sort of why I want to know what the budget is, because I felt like this is obviously a low budget film, but looking at the makeup, I was like waiting kind of for some of it to come apart. We have Horn, the main bad guy, and he's like this cool, like, I don't know, half robot minotaur thing. And we can see that like he's split right down the middle with this costume effect. And I was like waiting the entire time for it to actually split in half, like for you to like see the opening of the suit that this actor is in.
That would have been cool.
It is a solid makeup. It holds up the entire way through.
Fight after fight.
Yeah, I mean, we got Horn. We were just talking about Weasel. Yeah, if we can get his picture up. I just thought, first of all, I thought he was super ugly and I couldn't stand looking at him. But I thought that was so brilliant because the makeup is so good on his face. Like he can really emote and express, and he just acted so well through that makeup. Yeah, look at that guy. Like he looks like people I've met in real life, except just exaggerated enough that you see his personality.
That one time when you took the sewer tour of New York and you're like, oh, look at these rat people.
Yeah. Oh,
I remember that story. I totally agree with you.
Even Lenny, is that his name? Or no, I'm Lenny. Sorry, I'm thinking of Santa with muscles. I'm thinking Shorty.
Which is a very Lenny type character.
Yeah. He is that character for this movie. But Shorty, the four arms, I thought I loved the forearm gag.
I did too.
I thought they did well. I think they could have done it a little bit better by making it like if he was not a humanoid type creature, and his hands didn't need to look like people hands if they were furry and or whatever, and they could have put that on the fake set of arms. I think that would have worked a lot better. But I mean, they had a cheap gag that worked really well for the close-up shots. They use another actor, I assume, with their hands. I don't know. I absolutely love the special effects makeup in this, and I think that the guys who worked on this need to have props, big time.
I totally agree. So I also think that the makeup is really good. I'm going to dip into bad. It ties in slightly. I'm trying to think how to. Some of the makeup and special effects are so good that, like, in contrast to some of the others, it really makes the bad shine when it shouldn't, because you're like, oh,
right,
yeah. So I think they should have had less alien types. They could have focused more energy on and more budget on the key ones, and then the bad wouldn't have looked as bad against the good, which looks so good.
So interestingly enough, right, humans in this story are like the underdogs, but they're the most prevalent race or species or whatever on this space station.
Well,
right? We never see another species of anything else.
But it doesn't get into it. We could have a lot of alien races that look just like humans.
Humanoid, yeah.
So what else you got for good? I got a couple things.
Just and this, when we get into the bad, it's going to sound like I'm a giant hypocrite, but I really just enjoyed this movie throughout. I thought this movie was a fun time. I was thoroughly entertained throughout.
So I think
I'm going to eat my words here in a second, but I just totally loved this movie. Like, I enjoyed every second of it.
There are so many bad things in this movie, but my main good, and I'll loop some small good in under it, is the structure of the film, the structure of the screenplay. It is solid.
Like, oh man, we're gonna have it out. We're gonna have it out in the arena because I felt like that was in my bad.
No, that's in the good. They had how everyone connected and things were set up. It could have been better, but like the really bad parts didn't feel that bad because they just hung together on a really solid skeleton of like how all the characters interact, their motivations, how this person. Like when they had the brain, was that his name, or head, or what was
the skull?
The skull. When they had the skull,
creeped me out, man.
At first, he was trying to get Shorty in on the scheme, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a perfectly normal scene of like he's living in that underground world, so it helps build the character of the world and the everyday life of Shorty. Of like someone's in his place and he's trying to like, hey man, I got the perfect scheme. I can rig the beams. I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just total throwaway, right? But then that's the character that comes back to the third act that is the main weapon against our hero. And it just fits so perfectly that, of course, he tried to go with the good guys. The good guys are like, no, that's not right. So then he goes to the bad guys. Just right. Really simple things like that set up everyone's thing. And some of it's too silly and some of it's on the nose, and there's lots of bad things. But I think when you take all the dressing away from it, it's just got really solid bones.
Well, and I guess that's why I'm torn on it. I think a movie that stays entertaining throughout and moves along well, like I think that is a mark of good screenwriting. However, that being said, I really feel like this story could have been a lot better, like a lot more emotionally involved.
Yes, I have some problems with the story as well. It's the beats and the structure that I really like. The main character's arc should have been completely different. Should have been completely different. And there's also
we'll step back out of the arena.
Yeah, there's also some things that I thought were just really smart to set up, like the red and blue lights that even out the fights, because that's something that a lot of people
also in my bad.
Man, it looks silly, but the idea of it's so smart because you do have alien races and some of them are going to be way too powerful to fight someone else. So like that evening, so it makes it more of a sport as opposed to like a blood sport where it's, I thought that was really smart.
Like I get the concept and I didn't think that it looked bad. Like I thought it was an interesting idea. However, a big chunk of the story is that humans haven't been able to win the title or even compete, I think, in so long. And it's like, well, so why? If the playing field is leveled to where everyone like the giant punching robot monster thing at the beginning that Horn is fighting, like can't just go and completely decimate a human. So I don't know, like why can't humans compete? Like to me that the whole neutralizer thing didn't make sense in that regard. Like why haven't humans been able to compete?
The human side of the story and the main character story are the worst parts and they don't make sense. And there's so many cooler, better ways to do that. So I agree, but I like the idea of addressing that. And then there's just other things I like. Like I like the trope of the old guy and the young guy and a sporting thing kind of getting together. And he kind of is like the manager and the sidekick and the comic relief and also
you're a bum, Rocky.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy that. So there's just lots of things like that.
I enjoyed that as well.
The fights are good and bad. Some of them are just really awful, like just the way they're shot and just what happens in them. And some are really good and fun. So a lot of it was like, some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What else you got for good, or we've kind of moved into the bad already?
Yeah. Well, I want to hear a solid bad from you.
Okay. Some of the acting, some of the costumes, where the special effects were really good. Some of the costumes were really bad. It felt like a really long episode of some hybrid between Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation. It didn't feel like a movie. It felt like a really great episode. It felt like the made-for-TV movie event of a TV show. And I don't think that's inherently a bad thing, but if you're going for like a movie to like in the theater, it didn't have that quite. And I think that was budgetary. Some of the transition wipes were just so silly and so TV and awful. And I loved them. They were schlocky, but that wasn't good. Just the made for TV vibe of the whole thing.
Yeah. It's just so crazy that, there were so many things that this movie got right. And then there are things that I have a short little montage that we'll get to in the schlock. But so many things that this movie got right. And then so many things that I don't know, I guess they showed up late to work that day. Like things that just didn't pull off, whether in the editing room or in some of the effects stuff.
Well, all I have left is schlock. So let's get into your bad. What's a solid bad for you?
So Yeah, I mean, I've kind of already griped about the story in that, like, I really don't feel like there's like any real character arcs, but well, and specifically for our main character, for Steve Armstrong, his story is that he wants to come to the whatever the space station is to become the human champion, and he does.
Right.
And he gets drugged in the process.
So the problem with his character arc and his character in general is that obviously he can fight.
Right.
Why he hasn't had a chance yet and why he's disillusioned, except for the possible cheating of fighters, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they could have nailed on that a little bit more.
The other problem, especially in toward the end of the film, are the stakes. The stakes never get raised, right? He's not fighting for anyone else except for himself. And even that, he's so wishy-washy on it and so whiny about it. Like, he gets all these opportunities, but he's like, but no, that's past. I'm done with that. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. And then, like, he gets drugged and they get him out of being drugged, and he's like going to go talk to that chick instead of fight. And like, that's not the point where you have to have him talked back into the arena. That's where he goes in. And at that point in time, something else should have happened where he was fighting for more than just himself. Like, he should have been like, well, all the humans were going to get deported, right?
They kind of build it up. And I have this as so I thought this was a wasted story beat or wasted storyline. They have the last human fighter there, the last human champion. And so to me, like, when I saw, I'm like, okay, this dude, he's going to train our hero to show him, like, here's how you do it clean. Here's how you, like, fight different types of aliens.
Right. Well, yeah.
And it's like he wins one fight, and this is where I think the stakes are. Our main guy, Steve Armstrong, he wins one fight and he goes back into the tubes, into the underground, and this dude comes up to him and just immediately wants to give him his championship medal. Right?
Yeah, and he's like, you're giving us hope. I'm like, that's too soon. You should have done that after the montage of fights.
Exactly. And so I think the stakes are that, like, humans are potentially downtrodden and they need some hope. And so he's like fighting for the hope of the human race in some way.
Yep.
But again, the fact that he won one fight, he wins one fight, and this guy is ready to give him his medal, to me, that implies that humans haven't even won a fight in the past however many years. Like, humans suck.
Yeah. So again, it doesn't track. So it would have been cool if, like, maybe his team had wanted him to fight slightly dirty, and this guy had taught him how to fight clean. And so it was the stakes were his morality and his soul, right? Of, like, he had opportunities to do the dirty fighting and win, but he chooses not to, and it's harder.
Yes. So there could have been a lot of stakes like that, at least. His personal character.
Well, and there was something cool in the beginning of, like, he lost his job, so he was afraid of getting deported, which is interesting. Because what's deportation on a space station out in the middle of nowhere? Like, that's something.
Drop you off on the next planet, I guess. I don't know.
Or put you in some kind of, like, shuttle that just takes you back somewhere. Or and all those people under living in the basically underground in the space station, right off the grid. All those humans down below. That's not a normal living sector, right?
Right.
So it would have been really cool and interesting, and it could have raised the stakes as the humans started to win. This alien is really upset about it. So he goes down there and has the police of the space station raid those humans. You're all living here illegally. You're getting deported, right? So then he's fighting for...
Unless you can win enough money to stay here, which just so happens to be the pot for the championship.
Right. And so then he's not just doing it for himself. Right. And that's when he's like, he still feels the effects of the drug, and they're trying to hold him back. And he's the one trying to go out there. Like, he chooses to not be proactive in the strangest places. So that part of the screenplay, I think, is just horrible. But I think the whole thing is still so strong structurally that something like that can happen, and it's still compelling.
Mm-hmm. So let's transition into Schlock here. I got a short little like 3 pictures here, a little montage that I call bad shots, and this is kind of what I was talking about with they made really great decisions, and then there are just some parts that don't make sense. And this one's pretty forgivable. You can see right there he's got a wire hooked to his space diaper.
Right.
Interesting fighting attire.
Also, that was in my bad column. The golden diaper costume is just awful.
I think it would have just looked cooler if he had like a regular set of like what are they called? Boxing trunks, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Like a classic boxer. Like, oh, that style of fighting hasn't worked in the arena for 2 million years.
Exactly. And so let's move on to the next one. So this is right after Shorty just straight up murders Weasel. Like they're fighting on the catwalk, and it's like a scuffle. Like they don't show that there's like this real like life or death fight between the two, and then Shorty just uses his forearms and picks up Weasel and just tosses him to his death. And they have this shot here where you can very, very clearly see a lifeless dummy falling to the ground. It's like, all right, guys, you could have just cut that out. You could have just shown him being thrown off because that shot was good, and you could have shown him hitting the ground, and that would have looked fine.
Yep.
So, and let's get to the next one. And I thought this was hilarious. But I don't know how bad it is. So you can see, don't look at Steve Armstrong here. Look behind him, the audience.
Cutouts. That's
very
awesome.
Clearly cutouts that have like wacky paint on them,
Alien
wacky clothing.
Faces. That's awesome.
And so a lot of this movie made me think of the original Star Wars, just like the cantina scene and all the different wacky aliens and whatnot. And then it made me think of the end of Star Wars where they're getting their medals. See, spoiler. And I believe all of those people in the crowd are cutouts. But here you get to see kind of like a night and day difference between here's how it's done right, and in this movie how it's done incorrectly.
Totally. Yeah, it just felt like their grand ideas were so huge for their budget that they should have picked their battles better and just cut some things.
But I'll throw this out here. Maybe they weren't supposed to be people. Maybe they're like spectator bots.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know.
So for my schlock, this is also this is schlock, and it's also good. It's the creation of the world, which I thought was really solid and intriguing. It's totally a ripoff of Star Wars and Star Trek combined. But let's get some pictures, like the dancing hologram. It's just a fun, weird little thing. And of course, I love all the music that these schlocky movies create just for their movies. And not the best song. I couldn't find it anywhere. I really wanted to. But
I thought that was schlocky.
So schlocky and so Star Warsy. And then the grasshopper alien, I thought he was a super fun alien, and I thought he looked great makeup wise. Now here's a problem with the red and blue lights, is that even if you lower his strength, just his body shape alone, you can't necessarily even out a fight.
Right. Yeah.
So I probably
that plot device has its limitations.
So if you would have had a more humanoid character fighting like Horn or some of the others, you could have taken some of that money, put it to some of your other things that needed the money, and then you wouldn't have had that logical discrepancy with the red and blue beams.
You'd think that the grasshopper alien that would be like a different division of fighting. If they're interested in keeping things fair and equal.
Yes. Now I labeled it "Oh Noes" because I love this shot where it cuts right to here. But I love this character. It's so schlocky. It's a stand-up comedian, and he's telling jokes about alien stuff that you have no idea about. I went to the store the other day, and there was a kerfluffle there, and then everyone's laughing, right? I wish this would have been a running joke through the whole movie. I've never seen, I'm sure it's in a lot of sci-fi movies, but I've never seen a sci-fi movie where it's a stand-up comedian, but there's no way you'll ever get any of the jokes because made up alien culture reference. I thought that was brilliant.
Which is a great joke in itself.
Yeah, just brilliant. Just small little things like that. And then the last picture is a great callback. And this is where, like, you know that the writer really cared about this. And who knows what the original product is compared to what was out. But, like, this is the guy he beat up who was supposed to be fighting in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's watching, and he's got
that's
the neck
world
brace.
building.
Yeah, it's world building, and it's got the extra joke of the gun falling on his head, so you get a callback of him getting his butt kicked.
Yeah,
because you don't hate the character, but you also were okay with him getting beat up, and you're okay with him getting a gun falling on his head. I mean, it was just a perfect callback, and it didn't need to be there at all. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of those little details that just makes a world so much more cohesive and fun. And I thought that was great.
Exactly. And for the last schlock thing, I just want to go back to the music in the cantina when she was singing her like love ballad. Very terrible. Anyway,
very terrible.
What do we have next week? What do we have coming up?
This was so hard. There were so many options. We're gonna go with Slithis. That's Silthis. Slithis.
All right, we're going to post it on social media so that you can find it. So until next time, I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We've been compelled by Schlock. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Schlocky, schlock, schlock. Schlock. Schlock, schlocky, schlock, schlock.